As always, our Hockey Insiders are brought to you by the great crew over at Pro-Am Sports. If you've not yet checked out their website, proamsports.ca, if you're to go there right now, you will see a number of different signings locked and loaded, including one with Ryan Smith on the way. Deadline for that is early April. Ethan Morrow, Vincent Desharnais, and Ryan Smith, the three signings that they have available right now at proamsports.ca. All right, let's bring in Darren Dreger this morning. Dregs, look at you, a happy guy today, hey?
Well, you guys are the guinea pigs here. So this is the first show that I'm doing on video. We're taping the Rain Dregs podcast later today. It's not the palatial NHL hotel here in Florida, but it's not bad. Anytime you have a shot with a palm tree in the background, it can't be bad. But does it look okay, or do I need to turn the whole apparatus so you only see the inside of my room?
No, I think you definitely have to use that background. You definitely have to use the background. Okay. Is that a door behind you, or is that the window?
Yeah, that's a door.
Okay,
a little of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that
Why
does
is it
look
going
nice.
right through the middle of my head?
I was going to say, it kind of comes up right through the middle of your head. If you maybe put the tree behind you or open the door or something. Either way, I mean, you can't go wrong, though. You can't go wrong. It's probably going to be okay. All right, so let's start here, man. You're down there for the meetings. What's on the agenda, and is this one of those meetings where things actually happen, or is this one of those meetings where things get discussed?
Well, all of that for sure. There could be, a rule tweak, but anytime you're making rule changes, it has to go on to the competition committee. And then if it gets through the competition committee, ultimately gets to the NHL board for final approval. I'd be a bit surprised if we see anything like that. So normally what this meeting is about is revisiting some of the conversations they've had in the past, and also planning and prepping for the upcoming Stanley Cup playoffs, and conjuring up ideas. Okay, well, what if this scenario unfolds in the playoffs? How do we deal with it? And then you relate that back to your multiple coaches challenges, goaltending interference, and the mystery that continues to cloud that issue. What about kicked in pucks? I showed last week on Insider Trading an example of Chris Kreider of the New York Rangers back in January against the Chicago Blackhawks. Just went hard towards the crease. And then in a stopping motion, as he's stopping, he propels the puck into the net. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but they had a goal review, and they deemed that it was a good goal. The goal counted. And the sense at that time was, okay, well, all the managers seem to be in favor of that. Well, are they still in favor of that? I don't know that it'll go to a vote, but I believe they'll have discussion on it because of what I said a minute ago. Everything relates to the postseason. What if a play like that determined a playoff series or ended up in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final? Would everyone still be okay with it, or would the league get absolutely vilified for allowing such a play like that to result in a good goal? So those are some of the things that they'll discuss here. And Department of Player Safety is always kind of a hot button item as well.
Salary cap come up at all again after the hurdle deal, or?
Well,
I know they're not doing anything wrong, right? It's just always a unique conversation.
Right. Yes, it certainly is a unique conversation, and it's one that I can guarantee you the managers are going to have, Dusty, whether or not they have it officially in terms of on the agenda. The other thing that's neat about this meeting is not just general managers, but other parts of the National Hockey League head office especially are involved in what they call breakout sessions. So a handful of managers will get together. There'll be one or two people from NHL hockey operations or officiating, those sorts of folks who are involved in these breakout sessions. And they just conjure up ideas. Colin Campbell, the head of hockey operations, will submit a couple of items that he wants each group to talk about. And then they hash it out in a smaller group environment. And if it, kind of provokes a bigger conversation, then maybe it does get to the main floor of the meeting. So I suspect that, the LTIR issue and the fact that there's no salary cap in the playoffs will one more time be discussed. I know we're going to talk about it here in our covering of the GM meetings. And don't forget, it was Kenny Holland who first tabled this a couple of years ago. And it made good sense. The league is governed by a salary cap the majority of the year. And then for the playoffs, it just, disappears, and you end up with situations like the Vegas Golden Knights have been in the last couple of seasons. I guess in defense, what I would say is it's not like the rules are bent or changed, to help out one team. be it Vegas or historically the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, every team can utilize the system the same way. And what's unfortunate is that in this case, Mark Stone suffered a lacerated spleen and is out for the remainder of the regular season. And that's why Vegas was able to do what they can do. So it's not like they're changing the rules for one team.
It's always an interesting discussion on this because, I mean, you said it right in there, and I know you'll probably talk about it on Ray and Dregs, and you said your coverage at TSN this week as well, is that you could just say, well, when you drop the puck in a playoff game, you have to be cap compliant. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't know if it was with you we discussed last week, like who would be opposed to that?
Yeah.
Why would somebody be opposed to that?
It's a good question, and I don't have a firm answer for you. Maybe it's the Players Association.
That's what I was wondering. Would they be opposed to this?
They might be. I'm not really sure why, other than from a Players Association perspective, you probably want as many players available to that team, at the last second possible as you can. More players around the NHL team, the better for everybody, certainly for those players. But that wouldn't have to change. You could have as many players around the team as you want. You just, you can't ice a roster that is above X number of dollars, whatever that is. But it's a CBA issue. It's not as simple as us talking about it or the managers talking about it and deciding collectively, okay, well, let's do this. I mean, they'd have to re-engage with the Players Association and negotiate inside or at the end of the collective bargaining agreement to make it happen. And that might be a long shot as well.
NHL Insider with TSN, Darren Dreger with us here on the Nielson Show today, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. We got the Oilers and Avs on Saturday night, and just lived up to the hype. I know everybody was freaking out here in Edmonton because they lost, but I said, you didn't watch that game and change your opinion on a playoff series between the two teams. You just want a playoff series between the two teams.
I mean, isn't that what hockey's supposed to be about, right? I mean, the pace of that game was incredible. And, there wouldn't be a fan base that wouldn't be excited. They didn't love the outcome. I can appreciate and understand all that. But when you look at the star factor here, largely what happened is you had the mega stars in McDavid, Draisaitl, and Rantanen and Nathan MacKinnon more or less neutralize each other until there was an opportunity. And we saw that opportunity with McKinnon and Makar, which ended up being the deciding goal in the game, clearly. I look at Colorado, and I don't mean this disrespectful of what the Oilers are capable of. Of course, the Oilers could win the Stanley Cup. Or some of the other teams in the West, like Winnipeg, that loaded up. The Dallas Stars got better. We talked about the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, go down the list of all those capable teams in the West. I still look at Colorado, and if I were a betting man, I'd put a good chunk of dough on the Avs. Why wouldn't you? I mean, they were strong before they added the pieces that they added, and Sean Walker and Middlestat, and I mean, go down the list of all the ads that Chris McFarland brought in to bolster this team, and they've got Gabe Landeskog potentially coming into the mix, perhaps as early as the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So. Just terrific hockey, the Oilers and the Avs. And what's sad is if they were to meet in the playoffs, one team obviously doesn't move forward, and that would be disappointing.
Well, Darren, I was just going to follow it up with your thoughts on the Central Division as a whole. And you've got three teams right now logjam this morning on 91 points, albeit different games played. Winnipeg 67, Colorado 68, and the Dallas at the 69. But I guess your answer would be Colorado coming out of those three. I mean, great goaltending to Foley with a pair last night for the Jets as well. You talk about acquisition pieces, but is it still the Avalanche within that Central you'd find top of the roost at season's end?
It is for me, but man, we're splitting hairs here, right?
Yeah.
You really shouldn't look by the Winnipeg Jets. Kevin Cheveldayoff probably doesn't get enough credit for everything that he's done. And I think that you can date it back to the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade with Los Angeles, and then fast forward to the extensions of Scheifele and Hellebuck. And then you look at the mid-season, late-season ads of Monahan and obviously Tyler Toffoli. I mean, he's just done masterful management work. The tipping point, maybe if you're going pro Winnipeg, is the most obvious, and that's Connor Hellebuck having another Vezina quality year. And elite level goaltending just masks so many things, but can also be a tipping point when it comes to winning games that matter in the playoffs. But it's a coin flip for all those clubs. I guess I just lean towards the Avalanche mostly because of the experience and what Rick Tocchet said on Wednesday night after that Canucks game. And Vancouver Canucks had that game in hand until they didn't. Until Nathan McKinnon said, no, I'm going to take this game. I mean, those are the words of Rick Tocchet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in that third period. And I think that's just playoff experience and knowing what it takes to win a Stanley Cup.
Well, I said last week on the station on one of the shows, basically, if Cale Makar is a great playoff, Colorado's probably going to win the Stanley Cup because he's like nothing against Quinn Hughes. Roman Josi, when you watch Nashville and what they've been doing lately, Roman Josi can dictate a game as well. I get it. Yeah. But Makar he's such a cheat code compared to what other teams have on their blue lines. It's tough, man. He's going to be a tough guy to stop.
I mean, we often think about the greatest players of all time. And of course, Wayne Gretzky is at the head of that list. And but you also think of players who revolutionized the position. And I think of Bobby Orr on defense, right? And Cale Makar is the closest thing I think we have to what Bobby Orr once was in the National Hockey League. So, I mean, when he gets going, man, he is near impossible to stop. And the beauty of his game is he knows when to go. It's not like he has a green light all the time. He probably does. I mean, if you're Jared Bednar, I mean, you just let a guy like that go. But it's like he's and it makes it's a big part of why he's such a terrific star in the National Hockey League is his hockey IQ. And his ability to defend is just about as impressive as it is when he turns on the jets and makes offensive plays.
Drags, as always, man, we appreciate the time. You enjoy the next few days in the sunshine, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Well, the next time you see me, which will be online or on SportsCenter, you will see the ocean behind me and not this palm tree and a parking lot.
Yeah, that works out okay then. All right, well, have fun.
Hey, guys, thank you.
Darren Dreger, living the good life this week. Covering the NHL meetings. And we'll see what comes out of there. There'll be discussions. Obviously, the guys on Insider Trading will have a bunch of things that the hockey world will likely discuss this week.